We're going to move on with our great panel and talk about what happened last night here in Washington, D.C. The president has just 2 years left in office, but last night he addressed Congress with bold proposals he says will lift up the middle class. Speaking to a packed chamber, the president framed his agenda as practical, not partisan, and patted his administration on the back for policies already in place.
At every step, we were told our goals were misguided or too ambitious, that we would crush jobs and explode deficits. Instead, we've seen the fastest economic growth in over a decade, our deficits cut by 2/3, a stock market that has doubled, and healthcare inflation at its lowest rate in 50 years. This is good news, people. So the verdict is clear. Middle-class economics works.
He definitely had some very confident, fun moments.
Right.
We'll have a few. Oh, yeah. There was, the president touted, though, a number of plans that had been leaked or slowly rolled out in the days prior. He called for shifting the tax burden away from the middle-class families, better child care, improved sick leave, equal wages for men and women, free community college, and a minimum wage increase.
Nothing helps families make ends meet like higher wages. That's why this Congress still needs to pass a law that makes sure a woman is paid the same as a man for doing the same work. It's 2015. It's time. We still need to make sure employees get the overtime they've earned. And everyone in this Congress who still refuses to raise the minimum wage, I say this. If you truly believe you could work full-time and support a family on less than $15,000 a year, try it. If not, vote to give millions of the hardest working people in America a raise.
Roland and I just had a moment because you and I connected on that. I literally, from my chair watching that line, I said, thank you. Thank you for saying that. If you really can, if you can live on that wage, go ahead and try it.
I mean,
all of you out there.
It's not like they've worked that much the last 3 or 4 years, and so they probably could give us some money back.
And so just as notable was what wasn't in the speech. There was no mention of Al-Qaeda. The president barely spent any time on the events in Ferguson, Missouri and New York that have sparked mass protests across the country. And he did little more than mention immigration reform in spite of taking broad and controversial executive action last year. But he did call for a less toxic air of politics, drawing in bipartisan applause. And at times, he found his swagger, especially during this off-the-cuff exchange with Republicans.
I have no more campaigns to run. My only agenda, I know because I won both of them.
Yes, that was cute. That was good.
Every comedian I know said, drop the mic, walk off the stage.
I'm done.
They said perfect timing. They'll come back with their response.
All right, so let's go around the table. I'll start with Koki on, first of all, no mention of Al-Qaeda. And on foreign policy, was the president strong enough, given the fact that I think he's still being held accountable for that JV team comment?
Well, and he's now asking for an authorization of force, which is going to be very, very tough to come by, mainly among his own Democrats. And so I think, does need to make the case more strongly that this is a direct threat to the homeland, and that this is something that Congress needs to do.
Overall, the speech seemed like a speech you would give earlier on in a presidency.
Or later. I think,
okay.
I mean, I saw this speech as the platform for the 2016 election. A lot of people thought the Democrats should have run on these issues in 2014. A lot of them made the mistake of not doing it. And he is now looking at his partisan legacy. He's lost almost 70 members of Congress, scores of Democrats around the country. And he's setting the agenda for the Democratic Party going into the next election.
Carol Lee, what was the strategy? It seemed very positive at times. I mean, I liked it a lot, obviously, but it seemed like he was trying to send a message like, come on.
Yeah, they were trying to be much more optimistic as opposed to confrontational. That was the overall goal of the speech, which he kind of undermined with certain little ad-libs.
Of course it's confrontational. It was a straight Democratic Party speech to a joint session of Congress.
But I think...
Well, the tone, in the sense that at the end of the speech, he went on this whole nostalgic riff about being one America and hearkening back to working together, and those themes were what they want to drive home. But you're right, it was a very, in the president's ideal world, this is what he would do. What I found interesting was that he declared the recession and the crisis over and pinpointed the one part that is not working, which is for the middle class. And in that sense, the two parties seem to be coalescing around that idea. And the question is not what the debate's going to be about in 2016 and in the next year, but what the prescriptions are going to be from the two sides. So,
Roland.
What sort of drives me crazy when we have these State of the Union speeches and it's middle class, middle class, middle class, as if there are no other Americans. That's kind of important. So you obviously did not hear poor or anything along those lines. But he started right off with the economy, and what was interesting, he went right to the narrative. The woman, Rebecca, who was sitting between the First Lady and Jill Biden.
Yeah.
But that story was quite interesting when he talked about working in construction, housing went down, she had to go back to community college to get retrained, and he did lay out in terms of for Republicans, okay, where can we agree? The community college initiative, he used what was happening in Tennessee, okay, red state, he laid it out. Republican legislature, Republican governor, 57,000 students, 90% of all high school graduates said they wanted to do it. But then also, when he brought about the issue of infrastructure, same thing. Another one of those issues where traditionally both sides said, let's rebuild America. So he pinpointed where we can work together. I thought what he should have done was bring up criminal justice, because there are Republicans who have finally come around and who understand on the fiscal side it makes no sense. He could have said that people on the House and the Senate, you cut citizen reform, you cut when it comes to mandatory minimums, and then I'll sign it.
So when you bring up some of the things that he's pushing forward, especially for the middle class, by the way, I love the nod to the cop. I thought that was important given the big picture.
Not to the cop and to the folks, those protesters.
Yeah.
A lot of folks who voted for him.
Yeah.